the bravest man of the 20th century, Witold Pilecki's mission. The world has known many kinds of bravery. Soldiers on battlefields, doctors in disasters, rebels standing against tyranny. But few stories test the very definition of courage like that of one man, a man who volunteered to walk into hell itself. His name was Witold Pilecki, and he may be the bravest man of the 20th century. It begins in Poland, 1901. Witold is born into a family that breeds resistance. His ancestors have fought against Russian occupation, their blood woven into the soil of a country that refused to die. As a boy, he dreams not of glory, but of freedom. He rides horses through the forest, sketches, reads poetry, and builds a quiet strength, the kind that waits, not boasts. By the time he becomes a young man, Europe is trembling again. In 1939, Germany invades Poland from the west, Russia from the east. The Polish army collapses in weeks. Yet even as others flee, Pilecki refuses to surrender. He helps form the underground resistance, the Tajna Armia Polska, the secret Polish army, a network of patriots who fight not with guns alone, but with courage, information, and faith. But soon, a darker shadow rises, a place whispered about in fear. The Nazis call it Auschwitz. The world knows nothing of it yet, only rumors of barbed wire and smoke. The Polish resistance needs information. No one knows what happens inside those walls. And so, one night in 1940, Pilecki stands before commanders and says the unthinkable, "I will go." He plans his arrest meticulously. He uses a false identity, Tomasz Serafinsky, and deliberately walks into a Nazi roundup in Warsaw. He is beaten, handcuffed, and shoved into a truck with hundreds of others. The doors slam shut. The journey begins. Days later, the train stops. He steps out into a nightmare. Above the gate, iron letters twist into cruel mockery. Arbeit macht frei. Work sets you free. Auschwitz. He has entered the heart of darkness. By choice. The first thing he learns is a smell, a sickening mix of smoke, sweat, and death. Then the numbers. Each prisoner is stripped, shaved, beaten, and tattooed. His new name is 4859. His mission begins. Inside the camp, horror lives in every corner. Men collapse under whips. The sick are shot without warning. People vanish into chimneys. Every day, death becomes normal. But Pilecki refuses to break. Quietly, he begins to organize, to turn despair into resistance. He finds other Polish soldiers, priests, teachers, anyone still capable of hope. Together they form an underground network, right under the guards' noses. They share scraps of food, medicine, and information. They steal documents, record atrocities, and send secret reports to the outside world through smuggled notes. In the darkest place on earth, he builds a secret army of light. He calls it the Związek Organizacji Wojskowych, the ZOW, or the Military Organization Union. They gather intelligence about the camp's purpose, that it is not a labor camp, but a factory of death. They count the trains, the bodies, the chimneys that never stop smoking. And through couriers, Pilecki's messages reach Warsaw. His reports are among the first eyewitness accounts of the Holocaust, long before the world believed such evil possible. He writes of starvation, gas chambers, and medical experiments. He begs for help. Bomb the railway lines, he urges. Bomb the crematoria. Free us or let us die quickly. But the world is slow to listen. His words reach London, but they sound too horrific to be real. Still, Pilecki does not stop. For nearly 3 years, he endures Auschwitz, surviving beatings, sickness, torture, driven only by his mission. He becomes a ghost of himself, thin, hollow-eyed, yet unbroken. He watches thousands perish, and yet somehow keeps faith in humanity. I learned, he later writes, that evil is not invincible, only infectious. By 1943, he knows he must escape. His underground network is vast but fragile. Too many spies, too many risks. One night in April, he and 2 comrades overpower a guard, cut the wires, and flee into the freezing countryside. Behind them, the flames of Auschwitz flicker in the night sky. He has done the impossible, escaped the gates of hell. After weeks of hiding, he makes it back to Warsaw, thin as bone but alive. He reports to the resistance leaders, giving them detailed intelligence, blueprints of Auschwitz, lists of SS officers, records of mass murder. It is one of the most valuable documents of the war. The Allies now know the truth, but still, the world hesitates. The bombings never come. The camp remains. Pilecki is devastated, but he does not stop fighting. When the Warsaw Uprising begins in 1944, he joins the battle. For 2 months, he fights street to street, watching the city burn. When the uprising fails, he is captured again, this time by the Germans, and sent to a prisoner of war camp. Even there, he continues to inspire others. When the Allies finally liberate him in 1945, the war is over, but his mission is not, because Poland, his beloved homeland, has traded one tyranny for another. The Nazis are gone, but now the Soviet Union controls everything. Communism spreads its shadow, and those who fought for freedom are branded traitors. Witold Pilecki has a chance to live in peace. He could stay in Italy or England with the surviving Polish forces. But he cannot rest while his country is in chains. Against every plea, he returns to Poland, this time as a spy for the underground. His mission? To gather intelligence on Soviet crimes, on Stalin's secret prisons, on how Poland's heroes are being hunted. He works under a false name again, moving through the streets of Warsaw, watching his friends vanish in the night. But in 1947, his luck runs out. He is arrested by the communist secret police, tortured for months in a basement so dark he cannot tell day from night. They break his ribs, burn his skin, crush his spirit, but never his loyalty. He refuses to betray his comrades. When the interrogators threaten to kill him, he simply says, "I have already been in Auschwitz. I can survive anything." In 1948, after a show trial, he is sentenced to death for espionage. His wife and children are forbidden to attend. Before his execution, he writes a final letter from his cell. "My death will mean nothing. What matters is that good will return to this land." On the morning of May 25, 1948, Witold Pilecki is led into a small room. There is no honor, no ceremony, no last words allowed. A single shot to the back of the head ends his life. His body is buried in a nameless grave, lost under concrete for half a century. The communist government erases his name, bans his story, and brands him an enemy of the state. For decades, he is forgotten, but history has a way of remembering the truth. After the fall of communism, archives open. The world begins to learn who Witold Pilecki really was. His reports from Auschwitz are rediscovered, documents written by hand in secret, describing humanity's darkest abyss. His courage, once hidden, now shines like a beacon. In 2006, Poland posthumously awards him the highest military honor, the Order of the White Eagle. Streets, schools, and monuments bear his name. Books and films tell his story. But even then, most of the world still does not know him. Not like they should. Because how you measure a man who volunteered to walk into Auschwitz, who escaped only to keep fighting, who died for a country that betrayed him and never once asked for recognition? If courage has a definition, it is this: doing what is right, even when the world will never know you did it. Pilecki's life was not about glory. It was about duty, the kind of duty that outlives fear. He once said, "I try to live my life in such a way that when death came, I could smile." And he did. Today, if you visit Warsaw, you can find his photograph, a thin, handsome man in uniform, his eyes calm and steady. You can stand for the ruins of Auschwitz, where his spirit still lingers among the rusted fences and silent chimneys. You can walk through the forest where his body lies, unmarked but not forgotten. And if you listen closely, you can almost hear his voice in the wind. Remember what freedom costs. Because Pilecki's mission did not end with his death. It continues every time someone chooses truth over silence, justice over comfort, courage over fear. His story is not just a page in history. It is a mirror, a reminder that one man, even alone, can face the darkest evil and still hold on to light. He was a soldier, a spy, a husband, a father, a witness to hell. But above all, he was proof that the human spirit, when guided by love and conscience, cannot be conquered. Witold Pilecki, the man who walked willingly into Auschwitz, who fought tyranny twice, who died unknown but unbroken, remains the bravest man of the 20th century.